Welcome in, everyone, and welcome in to the Two Countries, Two Americas All Sports Podcast, episode 222. 222. I'm seeing 22 like I'm Taylor Swift, but I'm Nick Hill live here from Chattanooga, Tennessee, of the gold medal winning United States of America in the sport of ice hockey. And joining me also from another portion of this gold medal winning country, I believe in the Maryland DMV area, is Dylan Becker. And joining us, as always, from Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, is Gus Tomozelli. Guys, how are we doing here on this Thursday evening?
I'm feeling quite golden.
Yeah, me too. I mean, Brazil also had their first ever gold medal in Winter Olympics in alpine ski, so that counts too.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, a massive accomplishment for Brazil there to win a gold medal. But I mean, guys, obviously the story here: the Americans took out Canada on Sunday. Man, what a freaking war of a game this was, Dylan. We watched this with several of our other friends starting at 8 a.m. on Sunday morning, and it was an absolute knockout dragon brawl from the
It's
beginning.
I haven't gotten up before 7 a.m. to watch sports ever since I graduated college. And even when I did do it for a Tennessee football game, it was for a very specific reason to go to college game day or whatever. But to just watch an absolute cinema masterpiece of a hockey game that we witnessed, it was all totally worth it. Massive hats off to Team Canada, first of all, because without them, we wouldn't have had as great of a dance partner in the game of hockey. With the NHL being involved, it was going to give us the best in the world against the best in the world, and this is most definitely the strongest Canadian team to ever face anyone in Olympic hockey. And pun intended, given it was the anniversary of beating the Russians, it was going to take a miracle to beat them. And our boys managed to pull it off after 46 years of mediocrity and sadness, most of the time at the hands of the Canadians. But we did it. And it's just like, you know,
Yeah, and you have actually played the sport of hockey. I mean, neither Gus and I have played hockey, so you know a lot more about the tactical side of hockey. So let's kind of go through this game from start to finish here. So the first period, America really came out and they were aggressive. They were able to come out, get that early goal there to go up 1-0 heading into that first intermission. Dylan, just kind of like, did you expect the Americans to come out swinging the way they did early on in this match?
Jason and I were texting the night before. I'm going to lose the glasses real quick because they're getting a little much. Jason and I were texting the night before and essentially agreed that the best way to compete with Canada's offense is to just keep the pressure on them constantly. Um, as I said, they were the best team in the entire tournament. And the only way to beat a team with such a strong offense is to set the tone early on in the game and just keep that pressure on, which they did for that first goal. But I have some stats pulled up for the game specifically. Um,
And while you're pulling
Canada.
those up, Dylan, well, I don't know if you have them already.
Oh, I do, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to say, well, yeah, I think the one thing that kind of, I know we were talking early on in this tournament about how you expected, the refereeing to be a massive factor here because they don't allow as physical of a play in the Olympic tournament as they do in the NHL. But I was pleasantly surprised that this was allowed to be a street fight, basically, and that the rest kind of stayed out of it for the most part.
It's when you have as angry of a rivalry as the US and Canada do you really want to be the referee that steps in when Tom Wilson and one of the Kachuk brothers start shoving at each other, you couldn't pay me any amount of money to be that guy because they are two behemoths of a human being that can probably both knock me out with one punch. And I, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near them when the game gets physical.
Hmm. Now, you're about to bring up some of those stats. So, kind of, what are some of those stats that you think are key to how this game kind of played out?
So in the first period, shots were even with 8 for each team. I'm sure. Who was it that scored the first
I think
goal?
it was Baldy that scored
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
first
yeah,
period.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this through the Olympic website, and it's very different than the NHL website. And so, um, Boldy opens up scoring, and throughout the second period, Canada just maintained dominance, and they outshot us 19 to. I think that just means they put quick maths 11 shots on goal if I'm interpreting um, this chart to mean additional shots rather than or total shots rather than additional. And then okay, it was shots that entire period. That makes sense. Um, so yeah, second period they put on 19 shots compared to R8, and then we had 4 penalty minutes, which I think that was second period was the period that they had that 5-on-3 and didn't manage to score a single goal, which I may or may not get to that depending on how fired up I get, but we'll find out. Third period was a little more even with 14 shots on Connor Hellebuck versus our 10 on Bennington. And they only put one shot on Hellebuck in overtime. We took 2 shots at Bennington, with one of them being Jack Hughes' golden goal winner.
Yeah, and to me, like the way we were able to withstand that surge in the second and third periods was so impressive, and it starts with Hollebuck and the way he played in goal. And I'll admit I was a bit skeptical of the choice of him as goalie heading into it, and I
There's
wasn't.
a notorious text of you saying that we should bench him at the start of the tournament.
Yes, yes, at the first period of the Latvia game, because I'm just like you're looking at his stats heading into this. I'm like he's like middling this year, and I've come to understand that's kind of partially more because of the Jets
Mm-hmm.
than him. Um, Shows you how much Winnipeg Jets I've watched. But I'm like, okay, well, I know that you're going to need a great goalie performance, right, to beat the Canadians, especially when they have Connor McDavid and Nathan MacKinnon over there. You know, two who I think are probably the two best attackers in the entirety of hockey right now. Um, and some of these saves he made, that one save he made in the third period where the puck was basically behind him. I
It
mean,
looked
just a
just like
magical.
Holtby's save from the 2018 Stanley Cup final, where that notorious picture of him sticking his stick out like that and the puck's just like kind of over here hitting the wider part of his goalie stick. That one is just that's going to hang in the basements of dads. It's going to be in bars across the U.S. It's put that on the cover of every sports magazine that's celebrating this because what an iconic shot. And there's a ton of other pictures that we would mention, but that's the first one that sticks out to me, showing hey, we might be able to hang on to this and compete with Canada, and we ended up doing that.
Right, and definitely the puck definitely bounced away several times. I mean, Nathan MacKinnon had one shot that was just wide open during the third period. He just flat out missed it, and he normally wouldn't miss that. But you have to wonder maybe if the nerves of the moment got to a guy like McKinnon, who's played in Stanley Cup Finals. You know, like, and thinking about a guy like Connor McDavid, you know, all the pressure that's on him because I mean he still hasn't won a major championship, right? He still hasn't won the Stanley Cup Finals, and now still hasn't won a gold medal. You know, he is I mean, he literally has a Stanley Cup Final MVP and the Olympic tournament MVP, but neither championship. which is insane. I don't know, like the odds and the probability of doing that, but Connor McDavid has done it.
It's for such a great athlete that he is. You hate to see it. One of the things my friends and I'll talk about is it's not as hated and aggressive because they're in two different divisions, two different conferences. McDavid versus Matthews is the modern day Crosby versus Ovechkin. Crosby got that early success in his career, getting the Stanley Cup in, I want to say it was 2008 was the first one. And then he got two more in 16 and 17. He got the gold medal with Canada. And throughout the past 25 years, Ovechkin had just kind of he put up the numbers, but he just had that monkey on his back of not being able to be at the top of the mountain and win the big one. Now there's a massive difference between a Stanley Cup and an Olympic gold medal, and there's a debate on which one means more. Personally, even though you play less games to get to it, symbolically, the gold medal means a whole lot more than the Stanley Cup because you're playing for something bigger than yourself. And the fact that Matthews has that over McDavid, who has been just celebrated as the next Wayne Gretzky, is something that tame, but they're aware of the rivalry. That's going to hang over them for a while until either McDavid or Matthews wins a cup. And I'm excited to see where that goes over the next 10 years or however long they have left in their careers.
Yeah, and to me, I think also one of the big moments of this game was us being able to survive a 5-on-3
Yeah, I draw
opportunity.
that.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness, I thought we were cooked at that point.
So the funny thing about that, the one of the ways Jason and I talked about Team Canada is they had one superstar mega awesome line, one really good line, one okay line, and a fourth line that just to fill out the roster. Meanwhile, the US's lines were felt a lot more balanced in skill level. So they could put in the energy and all that effort, but not be complete bums if the McDavid line came out. So when those more balanced lines of the US were able to go against the superstar lines of Canada, they struggled a bit. But when they went against the lesser lines, they thrived. Now going to that 5-on-3, that's a real pickle because it was 2 straight minutes of Canada's power play just beating the crap out of us. But we hung on despite being down 2 men. Now, hang on a minute. Canada's coach, John Cooper, after the game, complained about the use of 3-on-3 hockey to decide the gold medal. Um, there's some stuff going on in his life right now that I won't touch on, but I wanted to say if you're complaining about the 3-on-3 overtime rule in hockey, but didn't bat an eye or anything when Canada didn't even do anything on that 5-on-3 power play, then something's up because you had every opportunity to just pound Hellebuck with shot after shot after shot, and it didn't happen. So it's not the change in the number of people on the ice that
Yeah, and
were a
to me,
factor.
it felt like Canada did play a little passively. Like they felt like they were going to be able to out talent the U.S.
They got too
eventually.
comfortable.
And throughout the whole tournament, right? I mean, they were skating by. I mean, they had to win both of their quarterfinal and semifinal games from deficits. They had to come back in both of those games, and they just weren't. They definitely were not dominant. They definitely were vulnerable. And Bennington, he did play well, But obviously in the free on free, we just were able that he was able to do that.
It just takes one lucky goal and Biddington to be just slow enough to get a puck past him. And then a factor that I forgot to include was Sidney Crosby, who I am a notorious hater of being a Caps fan, but I was super bummed to hear he wouldn't be playing because I want the best Canada team possible when it comes to the gold medal game. And without him around, it was close to the best, but it wasn't the best because he wasn't healthy. And it was announced today that he's out 4 weeks on the IR, which is a mega bummer at his age. Um, One of the last games of the season is Washington against Pittsburgh. So hopefully he'll be healthy enough in time for him and Ovi to have one more game against each other.
100%. Now, that free on free at the end there in overtime, what do you think was ultimately that difference there that was allowed us to be able to get that golden goal with Jack Hughes?
Luck. It's 3-on-3. So as you guys claim me to be the hockey expert as I am, there's some stuff that I have a hard time explaining because I was on the third line. I was never part of the power play, the special teams, the anything. I understand the theory of it all, but I never physically executed any of it. Not to discredit me in anything. I promise you I know what I'm talking about. But when it came to 3-on-3, it's like I said earlier, you got to just keep the puck moving so you can catch whoever is on defense because everyone's playing defense in 3-on-3. You just got to catch someone off guard enough to get past them. Hopefully, you catch the goalie off guard enough that you can get one by them. It is just simple. Pass it around until you can launch it.
Absolutely. And I'm trying to show this comment here. I'm kind of operating off of my phone, but Spencer Young watching us. Thank you for watching us, Spencer. He says that Canada failed to score twice. No excuses.
Yeah, it's there's another comment I'm gonna pull up. After the game, Nathan McKinnon said, "You be the judge of who is the better team today," hinting at I don't know what he was trying to say, but regardless of who the better team was, scoreboard don't lie. The U.S. won that game. Sure, Canada might have been more dominant, but the score was 2-1 in favor of the U.S. So that's
Yeah,
just
and
the way it is.
and what's crazy to me is like all these people being like, all these Canadians on Twitter being like, oh, all these Americans celebrating when they clearly got lucky. Wow, so cheap, and it's just like, well, at the end of the day, it was for the championships, for the gold medal,
Yeah.
Let me
and like we're
let
on
me ask
top.
something. Let me ask something for you guys. How much does this win brings back the sports nationalism that America might definitely need it come summertime in the soccer men's soccer World Cup?
So this is the part where it might get a little controversial. I'm aware hockey isn't the most popular sport, and thanks to a certain show on HBO, it's been a lot of people's introduction to it, and they don't. Trying to figure out how to word this because I don't want to accidentally end my career before it even
Well,
starts.
basically, I heard someone from Barstool say this succinctly. There is a large gap how between the online fan base of hockey
Mm-hmm.
and actual hockey players.
The
In
people who were
term,
introduced to hockey because of an HBO show,
which
and
I've never even heard of this show. Like I've
he,
never
he
watched it.
it's there's been a weird resurgence or well just a weird surge of hockey romance books out lately. I never understood them, and frankly, I'm annoyed by them because hockey's popular now. Where was all this popularity when I was in high school? Um, but there is a massive difference between people who are just taking interest in hockey nowadays and people who have been watching it for a long period of time. And sure, a unfortunate political incident happened with President Trump calling the boys in the locker room and making a joke along the lines of like he had to invite the women's team, otherwise he'd be impeached. Um, that is a comment. I'll say that.
It's a very
And
Trump comment. I mean,
it
that's
it, it, it,
yeah.
it is. And supposedly all the guys in the locker room started laughing or cheering, depending on who you ask.
Yeah, after they
Um,
just won the biggest game of their life. I mean, they
it's
weren't going to take
yeah.
anything seriously at that time.
My logic was when you are riding on the high of winning a gold medal, probably the biggest high you can get in any sport, you are reacting in the moment and thinking later. But going back to the nationalism in sports, it's unfortunately made a lot of people say, I wish Canada won, I wish Finland won, all that stuff. And just like, okay, I get this is a divisive time in our country. People are hurting. There's a lot of stuff people don't agree with going on. There's a lot of fighting online. Um, Herb Brooks famously said, the name on the front is more important than the name on the back, which doesn't just imply your last name. USA Hockey is all of us in this country. Um, we are the men's and women's team are one team. USA Hockey as an organization is great at showing off the unity between the two. Um, that
Phil's
was
in the locker room
yes.
getting wasted with the team, and that was funny.
Look, my logic is if Bide was in the locker room pounding beers with the boys, I would have found that funny too. Um,
Yeah.
but
Um,
the point I'm trying to make is, regardless of your political beliefs, our country did something really cool, not once but twice. The women have done it a bunch of times. Not to put down their accomplishment because the gold medal in anything is awesome, but it's been 46 years since the men won it. We're all fired up about it. It's not that we're being obnoxious, sexist, misogynistic a-holes. It's we're just proud of what we've accomplished as a country and as a team.
yeah. What I will say about this whole situation is, you know, it almost feels like I'm going back to my Bad Buddy rant post Super Bowl. Once again, this is another reason why the culture war is the single most like toxic thing that we have right now in our
Mm-hmm.
society. Like it's just everything has to like every single thing you say or do has to relate back to the greatest societal ills, right? To
Mm.
whatever is going on in our society. And that's insane. I mean, we're talking about a group of young men here who just won the biggest game of their lives. Like, yeah, like and they're talking to the president, and there's some people who are saying like, oh, they should have never taken the phone call from the president in the first place. I mean, okay, like guys,
Cash was the one that called Trump from the locker room. The players didn't call Trump, and Trump didn't call the players. Cash called the players,
yeah, like I mean, yeah,
or
like the
Cash called Trump. There's too many people in this factor.
yeah, I mean, was it okay? If this were any president besides Donald Trump, would anyone have cared that the president called the team after the win? In fact, I think people would expect the president, right, to call,
Yeah.
right? And I know that's obviously people are mad about the comment of the women's hockey team, and I did see that the mother of Quinn Hughes, right,
Mm-hmm.
like who worked for you for the women's team, said that ultimately, like she really wasn't that upset about it, and that she says like the men really support the women and the women support the men, right? Like like we know what we are about behind the scenes, and we have a lot of and these people online, like you look at like Vox magazine or you look at
Mm-hmm.
like Vanity Fair or whatever. These people are like, oh, the hockey team had a responsibility this week to denounce President Donald Trump. No, they didn't.
No, they're
Like
athletes, not
you
political activists.
yeah, like you're like, and that by that logic, you're saying that every single person right now should basically be making a political statement with every single thing that they do. And do you realize how like toxic that is? It's like this argument like from a few weeks ago saying like, oh, if you like Bad Bunny, you're clearly a socialist. Like
No,
no, and it's like now saying like, oh, if you celebrate the U.S. hockey team, you are a conservative. Like no,
no,
like you can be a conservative and like the Bad Bunny show. You can be a liberal and love what this U.S. hockey team did, and I mean, like even like I was watching Josh Pate's thing with President Trump that he did in Rome, Georgia, when I was down there a few weeks last week. He's like, you talk to the president, when you have a chance to talk to the president, you talk to him,
yeah,
right? Or like what you think of him, and it's like these people. It's like these people are trying to police what we think and what we say.
yeah,
And obviously, and as a journalist, right, like I have to be very careful, right, because like I have a responsibility to present news in a neutral way, and then that can be difficult, especially in this time and age where there is a lot of a lot of very controversial things that are going on. But at the end of the day, you know, this is about what these guys did on the ice, not
hmm
about all this political nonsense off the ice. And frankly, it's not just like left wing cultural commentators that are piling on the hockey team. It's those who are Trump aligned, right? That are like saying like,
yeah,
oh, look at this, is American exceptionalism, which I mean it is. But like, since when did American exceptionalism be just a right wing thing? American
yeah,
exceptionalism should be an everyone thing. We should all want to be exceptional as the United States of America. It's not inherently a conservative thing to be an American exceptionalist. Um, you know,
There was Paul Skeens said in an interview, I think it was yesterday, that he was asked about representing Team USA in the World Baseball Classic and the country's recent Olympic success. Quote, "We're America. We've got to assert our dominance over everybody else. That's what we do." Now, when it comes to sports, that's a perfectly healthy mentality to have because it is much better to have just sports rivalries and stuff like that rather than us countries going to war and people dying. It is a
exactly.
perfectly healthy way to handle things. We go back to the four nations of last year. Political tensions between the US and Canada were high. So what did we do? Because the tournament was sanctioned by the NHL, as soon as the puck dropped between the US and Canada, both teams gave the fans a show and started beating the crap out of each other. I would rather a bunch of guys in 40 pounds of gear with knives on their feet just start punching each other just to give the fans what they want rather than anyone to ever have to die for their beliefs.
Yeah, I mean, this is why the Olympics were created, is to
Yeah,
be a show of unity, right? Like at the end of the day, America and Canada are two of the closest allies
yeah,
that you possibly can have, and I get that with this administration, some of those relations have been kind of strained a little bit, but you know, I mean, when it push comes to shove, right? Like Canada is going to be one of our main allies, no
hmm,
matter what. It would take something catastrophic for that to change. I mean, do I like everything about Canada and what they do? I mean, no. Like, I don't like the MAID program, for example. I don't think you should be allowed to do assisted suicide.
yeah,
At least not outside of like end of life situations. But like that's not necessarily how the
yeah,
MAID program is being used in Canada, and that's a discussion beyond the purview of the show. I'm just going to put that on the record. But um, otherwise, right? Like Canada is still someone that we obviously
yeah,
work very closely with, and but when it comes to playing them in hockey, I want to beat them in hockey
yeah,
because I mean, it's their sport, right? Like this is like Canada is hockey is Canada's sport, and to beat them at their own sport shows what America can do. And I think going back to what Gus was talking about with soccer, it should be a reminder that yeah, like America, if we got our crap together, if we got our youth academies together, if we got like our soccer culture together, America could compete for World Cups one day. But we don't have it together. But you got to look back at how hockey did. Like hockey was able to really, after the 2010 loss, they really restructured a lot. And plus, there was a massive surge. I saw a tweet from USA Hockey in 2011. They had like a record of young kids that wanted to play hockey in 2011. And I saw someone on Twitter said, or I guess X or whatever it is, said, "Hey, in 15 years, we're going to win gold because of that." And it came true because all those kids watched us lose to Canada in overtime in 2010, like, and they wanted
Never
to represent
again.
the red, white, and blue.
I'm
And
sure it took a couple silver medals to get to it, but we got the gold medal after putting in the hard work. It's all that matters.
absolutely, it's just, let's not forget, like, really what the point of the Olympics here are, right? Like, I think about like Elisa Liu versus Eileen Gu. Like, one chose to stay in America and represent our country and won 2 gold medals. The other one went and defected to China. She did win 3 gold medals, for Eileen. Good for her, but like she sold out, and like we
Yeah.
all that don't like her because of that. Like that's you defected to a communist country in China, so an authoritarian country at that. And I know
Hmm.
some people are like, well, the Trump administration is authoritarian. Well, I mean,
Compared to
yeah.
China, though,
Xi
yeah,
Jinping literally like doing a genocide in the Uyghur,
yeah,
and what he's doing in Tibet, and could threaten to blow up Taiwan any day. Uh,
yeah.
Yeah, but that once again, this is not a Chinese politics show. I
Yeah.
probably prevented myself from ever traveling to China, but I've said stuff publicly that
You've been on Rock Solid Sports. We've crossed that bridge a long time ago. After I kept bashing them during the last Winter Olympics.
I'm about to say. Because I literally boycotted the last Winter Olympics because of China. I was like, I will not watch a single second of the Beijing Olympics because I think they are
Oh yeah.
a moralist country. Um, And yeah, Spencer, he has a lot of great comments here. He says America has all these possibilities to be great at a lot of sports. We just haven't been able to get the youth programs in order for sports, except for football, basketball, and maybe baseball. And obviously, right? And football, right? We're not going to see truly a true international sporting event like this, just because no other country really plays football like we
And
do.
we're getting flag football in the Summer Olympics, right?
We are getting flag football,
But
yes,
like
but like
that's not the same.
yeah, I mean, we're not going to do full on tackle football because let's be real. Like,
Yeah.
imagine like a team of any team that you could assemble from across the world dealing with like an actual like team of NFL superstars. No,
I don't know. I think the solution to that would be just Western European and Australia and New Zealand rugby players. That would be the only way to counter American football players. But
yeah,
that's just it.
yeah, but definitely like basketball. Obviously, we've dominated, and although the rest of the world's getting closer, I mean,
So
France had their chances to beat us in
one
24.
one point that I want to ask, especially Dylan about it, he mentioned about the value of the golden in the Winter Olympics in hockey, and I feel like the parallel in basketball is so different because, for example, Carmelo Anthony, he's a three-time gold medal winner, and yet the basketball community will never accomplish praise him because you know he never won a NBA title. So how different it is, for example, this value compared like to other American sports.
It's the gold medal is the standard for a hockey player. Like obviously everyone wants to lift the Stanley Cup, but there are a ton of Austin Matthews will bring him back. He's not going to win a cup with Toronto, and if he stays in Toronto, he's not going to win a cup at all in his career. But he'll always have that gold medal, and no one can hold that against him. So that's probably the best way to explain the value of it. Because, and to be honest, people who devalue gold medals because you don't have the championship of your league are kind of dumb because these are athletes who aren't on the same team. They probably all know each other after playing in the same league for years, but they had a few months to just get it together and go represent our country and hope for the best. And for, you said it was Carmelo Anthony, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect example. It worked out for him in the best way possible 3 times. Does he have an NBA championship? No. But no one can take those gold medals from him.
But
There's,
what I will also say to that is the USA basketball team is expected to win gold when
yes,
they go.
this is also true.
In the USA hockey, it's a much bigger accomplishment for USA hockey to win their gold medal than it is for USA basketball.
Branching off of that, actually, um, again, this is going to get a little muddy. The gold medal for the women is like basically guaranteed every year. The women's team since 1998 have been so dominant that anyone who's at least watched like 5 minutes of hockey can guarantee every Olympics in the finals is going to be USA against Canada for the women. The men for the past 46 years have struggled. It took a miracle to beat the Soviets. Um, we've Soviets won a couple more after 1980. When they about the time the USSR collapsed, that's when Canada started getting better. And since then, it's the USA has just struggled, and it finally broke the curse or whatever was going on with us.
Yeah, and then like, okay, I'm gonna be careful how I word this because I'll be honest, I didn't get to see any of the women's games,
Mm,
primarily because they were going on while I was working.
that is the
Uh,
issue. It's all good.
and but you're right, like, well, because of the fact that a lot of countries, right, they don't give women the same rights, that we do here in the U.S. So, or in a lot of the Western European countries. So America tends to, it's like in soccer, right? The U.S. women's soccer team has been very successful,
Hmm.
while the men's soccer team has not been very successful. And a big part of that is because it's just the equity of access makes it a lot easier for the women to succeed versus their male counterparts, where men across the world typically aren't being restricted from
Hmm.
playing. And like I remember the women won last time, and you didn't really see the buzz for the women's hockey team like you did the
I
men's
blame the
hockey
media
team.
on that. The women are awesome. Promote them. The PWHL is great. I watch it. It's free to access on YouTube. And it is so much fun to watch because it feels like a completely different sport. It's hockey, but they're a lot more precise and flowy rather than just slamming into each other at full speed and punching each other in the head.
So it's
And
basically figure skating, but with a puck and hockey sticks, kind of.
you could word it. Yeah, you could word it like that. I would describe it as figure skating meets roller derby. I know roller derby is ridiculously aggressive, but it's the best way I can describe it.
Very interesting, but obviously, and no one should really diminish their accomplishment, right, man? That they went out with to set what they do as a gold medal. But there's a reason why everyone was going nuts on Sunday and not Thursday, is because as you said, the men hadn't done it in 46 years, and obviously, leave it up to President Donald Trump to make it a men versus women thing, and that's an unfortunate byproduct of our current cultural moment. It's just this is a lot of things have turned into a man versus woman thing
Hmm.
for no reason. Um, but this shouldn't be, right. Like both American men and American women had demonstrated exceptionalism
Yeah,
during this Olympics. Alyssa Liu was getting as much buzz as this hockey team was.
yeah.
Like I mean, I think she was probably the most single talked about athlete in this entire Olympics. Like her and Lindsey Vonn, I mean, were the two most talked about. They're both women. I mean, um, like our Americans, both male and female, went out and did what they needed to do. They went out and had our best ever showing in the Winter Olympics.
And with the women turning respectfully declining the White House visit, it's not because they were going against what President Trump said. It's because many of the women's athletes are still in college, or they got to get back to their PWHL teams and go back to taking care of business. I have read that they are planning on a visit in April. That's tentative. I had the article on my phone, but I lost it. A visit for the women isn't completely out the window, but it was just a bad time for them.
Now, Gus, if you'll pull up this next comment from Spencer, he said that the unfortunate, he said, quote, the unfortunate thing for me is that women's soccer has been really politicized within the last 10 years. I enjoy watching it, but just can't stand the politics been going along with it. And that's an
Yeah,
interesting
that makes
take.
sense.
I'll be honest, like it doesn't really bother me. I know like Megan Rapinoe during the last World Cup was definitely controversial. Um, and for me, when at least it comes to Rapinoe, right? Like I get it, right? Like she's going to annoy some people with her politics, but she's also been like one of the best American soccer players of all time, at least on the women's side. So to me, like if you can back up your performance on the field, then you get
Hmm.
to go out and say whatever you want. Like Muhammad Ali was very controversial for his day, but he's still one of the greatest boxers of all time. You know, and people want to say like, "Oh, look at Colin Kaepernick. He got kicked out of the NFL." Well, if he was Patrick Mahomes and he was throwing up 50
Yeah.
touchdowns a year, he would still be starting for someone in the NFL.
To his credit, he made it to the Super Bowl against my Ravens, but it's he didn't win it, and that's why people probably think lesser of him.
Right. Well, I mean, to be fair, he also was carried by a run game and
This is
defense.
also true, yes.
So, I mean, he played really well in that
And the
game. I mean,
lights turning off.
after the lights turned off, yeah. But as I said, if you're like LeBron James has been super controversial for years now, for decades, because he gets out there and says political stuff. But you know what?
Yeah,
He's still getting paid millions because
yeah.
he's one of the greatest basketball players to ever do it. Um,
I
so
get what
it's
Spencer's saying because it's I'm more focused on as a journalism major in college, we had to cover everything. I focused more on sports because around the time where I started college, just everything got really depressing. Like spring semester of my freshman year was the COVID pandemic, and the news was just so negative and bitter and sad. And I know that's your job,
I
Nick, and
know.
you do it
I'm
great.
sorry. I know, but like,
But
and what sucks from our end, right? Is like we sometimes do try to do good stories, but those typically don't get the same engagement
yeah,
as the dark stories, and that's
yeah,
why we have to. And but like we also, from our standpoint, right? Like we want to cover the stories that are most impactful, and
yes,
those tend to not be positive. Because if everything's hunky dory, then what's the point of us? You know?
yeah. Look, that little Timmy saw a puppy and a rainbow. It can't be like that every day. But the thing, sports are either mega depressing, mega exciting, or just sort of dead in the middle. Um, when Kobe Bryant was killed that helicopter crash, which also happened spring semester of my freshman year, again, heck of a semester for me. That is probably the lowest sports news I've ever had to deal with. Um, I wasn't part of Rock Solid Sports yet, but I remember being on the air because it was a Sunday night. I was on the air at WUTK, and I read something about it from it wasn't any of the major outlets
Yeah.
that it happened, so I just sort of ignored it.
Yeah, I remember I was at the Mall UN. We were preparing for a conference. Of course, this was a couple of weeks before the whole world shut down. Yeah, I
Hmm.
remember getting that news, and we were all like, "Wow, I can't believe it."
Yeah,
Hey, Scott, Spencer just want to make sure you're good.
I'm good. It's just almost 1 a.m. A little tired. I had a busy day, but and you guys
hey,
have a
it's all
great
good.
discussion. I'm good. I'm
Um,
good. Thanks for
Yeah,
asking me about it, and let's get going. But yeah, it's. I feel like the morale of the country always increases when you have a great victory like that, and
at least
also
it's supposed to. Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
also
but obviously we just gotta like get through this whole like I can't I can't like celebrate with these people because they have a different political opinion than me. Like
yeah.
we have to get over that, you know.
I fully
yes,
guarantee you,
a
in the
lot.
next month or so, something else is going to happen, and this will just everyone's going to forget about this. And it's an
Yeah.
unfortunate reality because, like I said, a lot of the news is quite depressing, but it's just the way things are with people being chronically online just wanting to argue.
Yeah, and that's the key point. You got to go outside and touch grass.
Yeah,
I promise you, things are not as bad in the real world as they look online.
yeah, just turn off Fox News and CNN, delete Twitter for a week, X, whatever you want to
The
call it.
only news source that you need is WDF News 12.
There you go.
Yeah, that's
That
the one.
that's the only news source that you need. Come follow me, and I'll give you the news that you need. Granted, if you live outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee, that may not be much, but hey,
And I still follow you on Twitter X just because hey, I support the
yeah.
people that I'm
I
friends
follow you
with.
on Facebook. I like the Facebook lives. That's sometimes I know more what's happening in Chattanooga than Americana. Maybe in a couple of months ago. Now I have to be aware of everything since I'm covering. But yeah, it's a great job you do, Nick.
Yeah, you definitely should. I think you should definitely adopt the Facebook Lives. I mean, those things can get a lot of people going, a lot of viewers, like especially if something as big is going on, for sure. But in any case, guys, definitely big weekend for us to win this hockey gold medal. We have a couple of other American topics here to go through. Um, Obviously, college basketball right now, definitely, we're getting closer. This Sunday is March the 1st, so we're getting close to March Madness
Woo.
here. Obviously, next really big sporting event on the calendar. Our Vols last night did take a tough loss on the road last night at Missouri, 73-69. It was a tough, close game. I kind of figured it was going to be a tough game just because, I mean, Missouri is a good team. They're fighting for a spot in the tournament.
Yeah, yeah, you call an episode because that game for the Missouri Tigers was definitely way more important for the fall, especially to squeeze in into the bracketology.
Oh, 100%. And I know, I guess you're about to bring that up. So let's kind of take a look at it here, where things stand here with about 2 more weeks left in the season. And the thing to remember here for, Tennessee only have 3 more games
Ooh.
left here in the regular season. You can see Duke is like #1 overall seed. You got Michigan there as a 1 seed. Probably the only big real result tonight is Michigan State beating Purdue on the road. That's a huge one for them. So I don't know how that'll affect them. So let's see where Tennessee is at. See, Louisville's at 6. Still, maybe the possibility of Missouri and Kansas in the same region.
Yeah, that's what I'm rooting for. Imagine that matchup in the March Madness would be historical.
Now, granted, the Louisville's there. I'm rooting for Cardinals. I mean, for Jason, but keep on going down there. See, Vandy's a 5. Let's see what we got here. Purdue's a 2. They just lost at home to Michigan State, which I assume is also a 2. So UConn's a 1. Kentucky has fallen to an 8 seed. Of course, Kentucky suffered a really tough loss the other night. Yeah, I was actually watching that game during our last podcast episode. They lost at the buzzer to Auburn on the road. Auburn's not very good this year. So that was a tough loss for them. Okay, keep on going down. UMBC, shout out to them. I see. Okay, Tennessee right now is a 5 seed, and so last night didn't really change anything for Tennessee. It was a missed opportunity to get another quality road win, but really and truthfully, I don't know how. There's not really that much of a difference between a 4 and a 5, and frankly, I would honestly rather be a 6. And here's why: because if you make it past the first weekend, if you are 4 or 5, you have to you're basically guaranteed you're going to run to the 1 seed. And who's the one? Scroll back up for a second. Who's the 1 seed in this region? It's Arizona. Uh, Which means if that happened, we would play Toby Awaka. We would be a
Mhm.
rematch with him, which that would be fascinating. At the end of the day, right? Like, I don't think we have the consistency to truly make a deep, deep run. At best, I think we're a Sweet 16 team. But like, if we switch with BYU there, I would actually like her shot. I would like a shot against Gonzaga. I don't think Gonzaga is that good this year. Like honestly, like if you put Tennessee at that 6 seed, I think we could beat Indiana. I think we could beat Gonzaga. And who's the 2 seed in that bracket? So Illinois. Well, we did lose to Illinois earlier this year, but we were leading at halftime. Like it was a really good game, and Nana Mint was really struggling at that point. So if Nana Mint came back and had a much better game against him in a rematch, like I think we could, um, compete with them. Like here's the thing, like this Tennessee team, outside of maybe like the top 5 teams, I think can beat a lot of these teams down. Um, can beat a lot of these teams, but the thing about it is they're just so inconsistent that they could also be upset in the first round. And who do they have us playing in the first round? So I know we were 5 seed right now. So there's South Florida. So I haven't really seen South Florida, but obviously as a you know those 5-12 games are always very dangerous. And considering the last time we were a 5 seed, we were upset by Oregon State. And also do notice that Miami of Ohio, who's still undefeated, is still only pegged as an 11 seed. And that's going to be what's fascinating here. If Miami loses in the MAC tournament, do they get left out of the tournament altogether? We went through their schedule a couple of episodes ago, and they haven't beaten anyone. Yeah, they haven't beaten anyone that's ranked. They haven't even played a single Power Four team all year. And I just don't know if Miami is going to go any higher than that. And you can see that they're just stuck at that 11 seed, no matter how many games they win, because none of the teams they play are good. So they probably need to win the MAC championship or the MAC tournament to get in, which is kind of not. And this is the thing that kind of irritates me about these conference tournaments on the G5 level. The whole thing comes down to 4 days. Like I know, like the Chattanooga Mocs have not been great this year, but at the same time, it doesn't matter. Like the Mocs could get hot in 2 weeks in Nashville and make the tournament. So it just the regular season matters much more if you're a P4 team for seeding purposes. But if you're one of these mid majors, it doesn't matter.
That's sort of the great thing about the March Madness tournament as a whole is these teams and conferences that most people have never heard of can just go on absolute legendary runs, make it into the tournament, and blow everyone away. I bring it up every time we talk about awesome runs in March Madness. Number 16 UMBC against number 1 Virginia a bunch of years ago. My dad, being an alumni of UMBC, that was probably the greatest day of his life, and he has had 2 children and gotten married. So when these little schools get that attention and get to show off how good they are on national TV, it brings excitement to them.
100%. One team I want to talk about here real quick that's on our screen, Houston, that's down there at that 2 seed. So they're on a 3-game losing streak right now. They've lost to Arizona, Iowa State, and Kansas all in a row. So Houston has had 3 straight shots at the other big dogs in the Big 12, and they lost all 3 of those games. That doesn't bode well for Houston. I still expect Houston to make a deep run in the tournament, and of course, they obviously were a shot away last year from winning the whole thing. But clearly, to me, they've got some work to do if they're going to win the whole thing this year, because for some reason they have not been a team in the top 12 all year. And you remember they actually lost to Tennessee back in November, and obviously Kingston Flemings is a great player, but this is just not a great situation for them.
And March Madness as a whole is a ridiculously difficult tournament because the playing field is so big. And when it comes to, say, professional championships or the college football playoffs, you can sort of figure out how it's going to go. It's a lot easier to, sort of prepare for different scenarios. But when there's 64 teams in just one massive tournament, it is 1 versus 63. And you just that number keeps getting down and down. You have no idea who is going to be in the championship. And that is great for us viewers to watch. but it is difficult as a player and a coach because you just gotta hope for the best that you survive.
100%. And yeah, Spencer makes a great point where for a lot of those smaller schools that go on a Cinderella run, it makes them a lot of money. And also, it often leads to a boost in enrollment as well as students become aware that they exist. So that's absolutely massive.
And I
Now,
remember one of the deciding factors of me going to Tennessee was I was watching March Madness, and they were doing pretty good in the spring of 2019. I hate that I had to think about when I graduated high school. Okay, I'll consider these guys as a possibility. So most people want to go to the big schools because they have that big energy. They have a lot of fun. But the smaller schools are just as exciting if you bring the passion.
hmm 100%. Now, I do want to take a look at the women's side of things because for us here in Tennessee, the Lady Vols are in free fall mode. They have now lost 5 games in a row. They lost tonight at LSU, 89-73. They're now 16-11, and it's just this is rough. But just come, I mean, it was another situation where the Lady Vols. It was a tight game at halftime, 1 point difference. So they played well in the first half, and I, they're just not good. I mean, this is perhaps the worst Lady Vols team I've ever seen. And this is
Oh,
as bad as some of those Holly teams.
no, the last year of Holly Warlick was terrible. I remember it.
Yeah, I mean this is getting that bad. I mean
Uh,
it's like this team has let go of the rope. I mean their defense is horrible. I mean they've given up. They're consistently giving up in the like 80s, 90s, triple digits. I mean it's like Pat Summitt is rolling over in her grave watching this. I mean this is horrific. And Kim Caldwell, right? Like I've been very positive about her, but I don't know if this is going to work long term. Like I legitimately, this what we have seen here this year is making me question if she's going to work long term because you got to wonder if this is a roster issue, a coaching issue, a mix of both. Lady Vol should not be this bad, and I'm not saying that it should be like title contenders, but I mean they're still projected to be a 7 seed,
what did you say our record was?
16-11.
Okay, because Pat Summitt's first season, including the postseason, was 16-8. Her second year was 16-11. It takes a little time to get good.
Yeah, well, that was also like women's basketball was basically in its infancy too at that
This
point.
is also true.
It is an established business like it is now. Like women's basketball, college basketball is bigger than the WNBA, um, which I'm sure will make some people mad that I said that,
It
but
is.
it's true.
Yeah, it's 100% true.
So,
And
uh,
that's another thing that's great about just college basketball, especially women's, is you get stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese developing their name in college, and then that attracts people to watch the WNBA. I watch Caitlin Clark whenever she's playing just because of how much of a star she was in college.
right. Arguably, the men's college game right now is better than the NBA. I'm going to get into that in a little bit, just on the mess right now in the NBA. But yeah, the Lady Vols aren't going to do much here in the postseason. Thankfully they have a very strong strength schedule, which will keep them in the tournament. But man, they're not making it out of the first week. They may not make it out of the first round at this rate. Just they're definitely going to be competing for the worst team in school history here. Um, yeah, so we'll see. I think Kim has some massive overhauling she's got to do in the off season.
You can't
Uh,
get lower than rock bottom.
well, rock bottom would be missing the tournament altogether,
Oh
which we
yeah, that
haven't
is
done as a
true.
school. Because the women's tournament only was created in 1982, and yeah, obviously Tennessee's been in it every single year. it has been held. So
We do have a standard historically as Tennessee. This if this is the worst we get, which I it's gonna sound evil. I hope it is because I don't want to be any
Di- Didn't
worse
the league,
because it brings shame as a Tennessee fan.
but it feels like
didn't,
we're almost like celebrating mediocrity, like, oh, look at us, we still have never missed a tournament. Like,
yeah,
I don't care.
that's what I was gonna ask. Is that the bar now? And if they miss the tournament, then do you think it's done for King Caldwell, especially because of the streak?
Well, look, here's the deal: if any coach at Tennessee misses the women's basketball tournament, they should be fired on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Like that I will put that on the record. Like missing the tournament's unacceptable. But that should not be just a minimum. We have fired both Holly Warlick and Kelly Harper in seasons where they made the NCAA tournament. That's not the standard. The standard should be consistently making the second weekend at minimum, which, to be fair, Kim Caldwell did last year. She made the Sweet 16. But at some point, we want to make the Final Four again, right? Like,
It'd be
Connecticut
nice.
has not had this fall off. And granted, they still have Gino, but South Carolina now dominates. I mean, that's what South Carolina is now is what Tennessee used to be. Like they show you that it still can be done, and Lady Vols are still searching. So we'll see what happens moving forward with them. But it's been a disaster.
The factor is obviously the Lady Vols program declining, but because of NIL, other schools are able to very easily improve and recruit players to counter the success that the a lot of the schools have. And I feel we talked about it when it first became legal. It feels gross that you can essentially buy a team, but it they can do it.
I mean,
So
is it really gross though? I mean, that's how every other professional sport operates.
when it professional, yes, but when it comes to traditions of college sport, that's where it gets a little uncomfortable. There was always a big distinction in you put in the work, you put in the effort, you offer scholarships, and that's it to hopefully recruit a good player. And transferring wasn't as easy as it used to be, or is transferring was harder than it used to be, excuse me. And now it just feels like college sports as a whole is very much about the money rather than school pride and all that fun rah
Yeah,
rah
and,
stuff.
and the and I feel like, for example, football and men's basketball are figuring it out. The rest, they're just navigating in this new world of money is a big reality.
I
Right,
fully
and
believe
those sports aren't revenue sports either.
if they wanted to, Tennessee could find whoever the best. I don't know. This is probably going to be made up. Not made up, actually. They could put together the best college Quidditch team in the world with NIL money if they wanted to, and we could go on a dominant run. Not because we want to just randomly try to put it together, but because we could buy it.
I mean,
I know I'm
maybe,
exaggerating because there's
maybe,
no chance any of us would do that.
but like Tennessee does not have unlimited money. We don't
Yes,
have
this
the
is
most
true.
money. Like a lot of the Big Ten schools have more money than Tennessee does. Like Ohio State, Michigan, schools like that have more money than Tennessee. Texas has more money than Tennessee. Um, like Tennessee is in the top 10, 15, 20 when it comes to NIL resources. We're not at the tip top, and I think the reason why we came out so strong a couple of years ago was it took a lot of other schools time to figure out how to actually do this, and we had a very good infrastructure quickly, which gave us a head start. But everyone else has caught up, and now our relative lack of resources is apparent compared to some of the other big boys, right? I mean, there's a reason why the Big Ten has won three straight championships in college football. Those Big Ten schools, those alumni just tend to have more money than top end SEC alumni. And that's kind of so that and that kind of is how we are seeing that play out. Now, speaking on this topic, it has been announced that President Trump is going to host a roundtable next Friday concerning these various issues afflicting college sports, such as NIL, transfer portal. And there's been a lot of people invited, including Nick Saban, Tiger Woods, and apparently Dondi Plowman is going to be there as well. So she has been invited with a select group. Um, of course, the question is, do we want the government really getting involved in this? I mean, because you have a lot of public universities that are involved here, but we're talking about basically college football is a business. And do we want the government coming in to regulate this particular business?
I mean, just in the two words of college football alone sort of answer the question. They are academic institutions first. And if they're funded by the government and the Department of Education, then the government's obviously going to get involved. Sure, probably the biggest moneymaker for a lot of these schools is their athletic programs, but they're still getting that federal funding from the government to function as a school. Now, the football teams and the basketball teams are probably giving the entire school more money than the government, but they're still getting the government money.
Right, we gotta remember too, athletic money is different than your endowment. Like
Mm,
endowment is the money that goes directly to the academic programs, and then the athletic funds are different in terms of how they are allocated. But I actually disagree here. I think college football should be allowed to operate as its own independent business. And this may be a libertarian point of view, and I'm not saying I'm a libertarian, but on this particular point, I will claim to be more libertarian in nature because college football has proven that has become exponentially more popular without government intervention. And I don't think we need a bunch of people who come from places of the country that are not, obsessed with college football. Like, I don't want
mm,
legislators from the Northeast, from the West Coast, saying how, the South's favorite sport should go,
that's
how it
fair.
should be structured. And I think college football has managed to make itself incredibly popular. Um, does it need like a central commissioner? Yes. But I think that's a decision that schools and conferences need to make. The government should not be forcing that upon them because if the government is trying to force them to do that, then we're going to be back in a situation where you got a corrupt body like the NCAA running things. And we all know how inconsistent the NCAA was in or has been rather in its rulings. I say was in jest because I think the NCAA is basically pointless at this point. Like it's a body that exists, but it has no regulatory authority. Like I think if your school gets a quote unquote NCAA violation, you should just ignore it. Like what can they do? I mean, you just sue them.
Yeah.
If at
Yeah,
that point,
the NCAA completely lost all their oversight. I feel like they have never been so weak.
Exactly. Like I'm basically advocating for anarchy here when it comes to college sports, I guess, and just full on. I'm like the football, like every man for himself. But I mean that's what it is until we get a full on commissioner. And I know Josh Pate wants to be the commissioner, so maybe let him do it. you know, um, but that's just the way I feel about it because I don't trust Washington D.C. to solve college
Yeah.
football. Like I'm nervous enough that they're going to solve like the Taiwan issue or the Iran issue. I need them focused on that. I don't need them focused on college football.
If college football becomes their biggest focus, then the world has done something awesome. Because if that's the US's biggest problem, then we're all good.
Yeah, yeah, and I know.
Yeah,
But I feel like I'm really, I'm really dancing the line of some of my opinions tonight. But hey, that's
yeah,
the great point of this show. This is what we talked about a few weeks ago. This show is free speech. We are here. We're
Yeah.
gonna say what we want to say. Spencer has
Yeah.
an interesting take here. Now, this is my opinion, but I think NIL has now ruined football because you're now getting players who are sixth or seventh year seniors who have a ton of experience against younger players like Carson Beck. True.
I feel like this new system made all the five-star recruits and all the high school come to college basically irrelevant.
Well, I will also say too, a lot of that 6 year stuff happened because of COVID. And we are now finally getting out of that time period where a lot of those players who played during COVID should still be in college, you know? Like we're now 6 years past the 2020 season. And I think we're gonna start getting back to a more where it's more 4 years, right? More 4 to 5 years. So a lot of the whole 6 year thing, it goes back to the whole COVID situation.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's why they took that decision because I remember vividly that it didn't count for eligibility that's 2020 season because you could uh did not play, and that's true. Finally we're getting out of the decision.
Absolutely, it's kind of crazy just think about that. We've literally been we've been doing shows together for that long. Because I remember doing I remember we were doing that sports politics thing during COVID, and we were talking about all
Yeah.
this, and now we're seeing the other side of things. I would love. I don't know if those recordings still exist somewhere, but
The
the
consequences of our actions.
yeah, basically seeing the
Un-
consequences.
Unfortunately, it doesn't because it was a Facebook Live, and all Facebook Lives are deleted.
Ah.
Yeah.
That's
Uh,
sad. All that I regret putting on Facebook now thinking about it because all that archive for Rocksol Sports and podcasts we did all gone.
See, that's the beautiful thing. At least we do this on YouTube as well.
Yeah,
So, because I do go back sometimes, and I'll go back to a specific episode and see what we said at the time
yeah,
about a certain topic, and so it's kind of painful. About 100 episodes ago, we were out here talking about how Nico Imialava was going to be the best quarterback in Tennessee history. At least I was, and of course that didn't age well. I was so sorely disappointed. Like I probably had talked about that guy from the inception of this podcast just to be let down.
I'm trying to think of other unhinged takes I've had, but nothing's coming to mind because what can top that?
I'm, I'm trying to think. Well, definitely the Nico takes certainly were cold beyond all
But
belief.
he's a perfect example of what is wrong with NIL because he wanted more money from Tennessee. We told him to kick rocks, and then he just sort of went mediocre in UCLA.
Yeah, ruined his career. Now, granted, he has a new coach this year, so we'll see how that helps him. But it's
Like the
going to be a
DC Defenders of the XFL will happily take him.
yes, 100%. Now, two more college notes before we move to NFL. Shout out to the softball team. They are still number one. They are still undefeated, just absolutely kicking butt. I mean, this softball team is special. I'm excited to see what they do when they start SEC play. I think they have a shot to win it all. I really do, especially if we keep Carlin healthy and the offense can produce against the likes of Oklahoma and Texas Tech. Like they've got a chance.
Would love to see it. I love but it's comparing it to USA Hockey that we were talking about earlier. I love the way that Tennessee markets both the Vols and the Lady Vols in just that unity. Even though the Lady Vols get that extra hint of the Pat Summit blue on their uniforms, that's their symbol. And I love the merch for all of it. And it brings attention to the women's sports because they have that little special extra thing that's different from the men.
And now, the thing that you have to remember here is, softball is technically college softball is bigger than college baseball in terms of viewership. So it'd be a huge deal for the softball team to be able to go on a run. Now, speaking of baseball, unfortunately, they lost the series this past weekend to Kent State. Kind of a little bit of a bit of a surprising weekend there. Now, I didn't really get to watch any of the series. They did win last night against Bellarmine, But a little concerned now. Kent State also did push LSU pretty hard as well in the midweek, and I don't want to overact to a February series. But it felt like Tony V didn't lose a series like this, and this is a sign of right that there's going to be some growing pains with Josh Elander and a new head coach of Tennessee baseball. So Spencer says, "Go Texas."
All right, speaking of Vitello, real quick, um, the Giants are 4-0 in spring training.
Why am I not surprised? Like Vitello, he's opening night. They're playing. I think they're playing like the Yankees opening night.
Oh, that's going to be a heck of a show.
Yeah, I will.
I
I will
love
definitely
that.
be tuned in for sure. Also, while we're on baseball, I forgot to put this in the line, but I'll talk about it anyway. The Braves are creating their own television network,
Good for them.
Braves Vision, which
Oh,
which I'm very excited to see how that goes. Hopefully it's on YouTube TV, because that would be massive. Get the MLB's biggest problem right now. It is very hard to watch their product. So
Mostly in the
it's
regular season.
ridiculous.
Mostly in the regular, because in the postseason it's very watchable, but in the regular season it's so archaic sometimes, like blackouts and all those stupid rules.
It it
what?
it's the for the Orioles. Masson is just a whole mess, and hopefully they sort it out this year with the unfortunate for the Nationals departure of Masson as their streaming home. But there was always Masson and Masson 2, and you never knew which one was the Orioles, which one was the Nationals, and which one was like the Maryland State Championship of thumb wrestling or something crazy, because it's these regional sports networks obviously have a purpose, with Braves Vision going to be hosting the Braves, Masson hosting the Orioles, and well, not the Nationals anymore. But they got to have other stuff going on. And when there's too much random content on it, it sort of gets annoying and makes you mad when you just want to watch your baseball team.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's all basketball fans are asking for. We just want to be able to watch our teams that in an easy way, like we're able to watch every other sport.
Isn't there some sort of controversy with you have to like have the premium ESPN package to be able to get a special MLB package through ESPN or something weird like that? I was reading an article about it, but can't remember it off the top of my head.
Well, I know NHL has that agreement. I know like F1's going to Apple TV this year. Um, in terms of like all the big TV moves, of course, MLS it feels like has gone completely irrelevant since they moved to Apple TV. But you know, of course,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. You have to have ESPN Unlimited to
But
get MLB TV, which is
but
not fair because you're already paying an exuberant amount of money for ESPN Unlimited, and on top of that, MLB TV is extra money.
I mean it's
It's
a racket.
yeah,
but I think the precedent that the Braves open is now sports teams are gonna need to be their own media not conglomerate, but their own media development. Because in the past, if you think about it, teams rely on the networks that existed, but now leagues and teams they can do on their own. They don't need ESPN. They don't need Fox.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think you'll see a lot more direct to consumer, and because I think they're realizing they're hurting their future fan base, right? Like for me in Chattanooga, like I can't go to every Braves game, right? Like it's 2 hours away, so I need to be able to watch it on TV if I want to keep up with the Braves, and that just hasn't been easy, and I haven't been keeping up with them like I used to because it's not easy. So make it easy again for me to watch the Atlanta Braves. It's all we're asking for. Some quick NFL notes. There was a trade day between the Titans and the Jets, Gus. So our teams made a trade. So we, the Titans, sent your Jets Tavondre Sweat, defensive tackle, for linebacker Jermaine Johnson. An interesting trade. Of course, Robert Saleh drafted Jermaine Johnson. He hasn't been great for the Jets, but he clearly still believes in him. And Sweat has been not fantastic for the Titans. Has been a little bit of a disappointment. And I don't know. Like I do think we traded for potential here, and we'll see if we get to draft a guy like Ruben Bain at 4 if he doesn't go to the Jets at 2. So that will be to be determined on how that trade goes. But I think the bigger news here is Anthony Richardson is demanding a trade. Of course,
Oh,
he obviously got benched in Indianapolis. It has not worked out there for him. So the question is, who wants Anthony Richardson? And apparently, one team that could be targeting him is the Cleveland Browns, who are also targeting Malik Willis, the backup for the Green Bay Packers. So,
Yeah,
okay,
but isn't the Cleveland Browns? They drafted two quarterbacks. They had Shadur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel.
yeah. Once they drafted another one, didn't they? Like on top of that,
Yeah,
well, they did draft two, but so they drafted two quarterbacks, and now they're talking about going out and getting two backups potentially. So let me ask you this. So who do you want out of these three quarterbacks? Anthony Richardson, Malik Willis, or Shador Sanders?
still Shadur Sanders. He has more promise. I think those other two, especially Richardson, they show who he is.
I would agree with that.
yeah.
I know Malik Willis was good as a backup for Green Bay, but also Green Bay is just a really good system. We're talking about the Cleveland Browns here. We're talking about like the New York Jets here, right? That could trade for Anthony Richardson, and because that would be a very New York Jets thing to do. Because the Justin Fields thing did not work. So now they got to go find another quarterback. They can't. They're not going to be able to draft one at least high, unless you want to spend pick 2 on Ty Simpson, which I don't think they should do. Um, so maybe you trade for Anthony Richardson and give him a go as a New York Jet. Maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers, maybe the Miami Dolphins, maybe Arizona does. Um, it's going to be fascinating because also the big question to me is: do any NFL teams still see Tua Tagovailoa as a starter? Is the question to me with how this quarterback market, because I think Tua is going to end up somewhere, and he may end up starting somewhere just because I don't know if there's 31 or 32 quarterbacks better than Tua.
And as long as he can remain healthy, he's a heck of a quarterback. But just his brain has just been rattled so many times that it's almost to the point where can he still throw the ball? Yes, but it just takes a hard enough hit to end his career and force him into retirement, and then you got that big hole to fill on your team.
Yeah, and Spencer, he's a big Colts fan. He says, "Good, Richardson can go somewhere else. I had such high hopes for him, but when he showed he wasn't able to produce even after 3 years, that was it. I'd go with Sanders, as crazy as that sounds." And I do
How
think
I feel about Lamar
Thank,
Jackson.
thank you, Spencer, for watching. Still now, appreciate it.
absolutely, and I do think for Richardson, I think for me, like if I were a Colts fan, I think I would have been out on him when he tapped out of the game 2 seasons ago. Like that's just something as a quarterback you never do. Um, taking yourself out of a game, like it was
No,
so weak on his
Yeah,
end.
or
So
just an athlete in general. Honestly,
yeah, but like you are the quarterback of the team. Quarterbacks are expected to be in there no matter what. If they can walk, they're in the game.
mm-hmm.
So well, we'll see what happens with Richardson. I'm curious who targets him. Also, I think Kyler Murray is the name to watch this offseason as well to see what happens with
another
him.
another name that I'm curious is, and there's a lot of talk this week about the extension between the Baltimore Ravens, your Baltimore Ravens, Dylan, and Lamar Jackson, and how big of a cap hit is going to be.
So when it comes to that, we'll go back a few months because there's another point about Lamar Jackson I want to bring up. It's with firing Harbaugh. this is a moment where it's either going to prove he was the issue or it's going to prove Lamar is the issue and firing Harbaugh is the mistake. So if we want to give him that extension and bet it all on him, let's go ahead. But they better produce results because he's a franchise guy. It feels like, but when you don't produce for the team, then there's no point in keeping you. And
I
speaking of,
don't think it was Lamar's fault that they missed the playoffs this year. I don't blame the
well, not
Ravens.
not just this year in general, just the past bunch of years. Um, but there was a when the Ravens were eliminated from playoff contention. Um, Someone brought up an interesting theory of just kind of spitballing out there. It's probably pure crap. The Raiders trading their first pick away for Lamar Jackson because Lamar still got a lot in the tank. I'm sure he's up there in years compared to probably the first overall pick, Fernando Mendoza. But it's one of the things where what if Mendoza ends up being a bust? At least, even though he's not producing for the Ravens, Lamar has that experience in the NFL.
I mean, Lamar is a two-time MVP, and I
Yeah.
understand he hasn't won the big one, but like Josh Allen also hasn't won the big one,
Mm-hmm.
and like I don't think anyone would sit here and argue that the Bills should get rid of Josh Allen. The Ravens should keep Lamar Jackson. Like I
This
mean,
was
I
most definitely an angry Ravens fan that said this, by the way, but it sort of stuck out to me just because they provided reasoning for it, which Ravens fans typically aren't reasonable.
Well, here's the thing. Lamar Jackson did not let Aaron Rodgers go down the field on him in 1 minute. It
Correct.
was the Ravens' piss poor defense. And their defense was awful all year.
Mm-hmm.
Lamar Jackson didn't blow a 16-point lead to Buffalo. His defense did. Lamar Jackson didn't miss a field goal at the end of Week 18. Tyler Loop did. Like Lamar Jackson wasn't necessarily vintage, right? He was dealing with some injuries,
Mm-hmm.
but he's never had a good receiving core around him. His running game has been, here and there, right? Because J.K. Dobbins could never stay healthy. Now you have Derrick Henry, but Derrick Henry, he's showing signs of aging. He's not what he was in Tennessee. Um, I, you can't, to me, you can't put the lion's share of the blame of the Ravens not being able to win a Super Bowl over the past decade on Lamar Jackson.
It
Lamar
most
Jackson
definitely
is the
isn't his
sole.
fault entirely.
Yeah,
But it's the debate was always, is it Lamar or is it Harbaugh?
I think it was Harbaugh.
More than likely,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, that doesn't mean that Lamar is going to ever win a Super Bowl in the Baltimore. It's just because of the timing, right? Now, granted, Kansas City isn't what they used to be. We'll see
Mm-hmm.
what happens to Mahomes when he comes back. I think it's going to take Kansas City a minute to reload. Buffalo should be like punching walls with how they blew this
Yeah,
season. Like this,
yeah, definitely. That definitely 100%. I think their Super Bowl window, they had a little bit open. Now it's closed.
I don't know. I still think they may have a chance moving forward, but like this was the golden opportunity because Buffalo would have crushed New England, I think, in the AFC Championship game. Now I don't know if Buffalo would have beaten Seattle. I'm not sure. But I know Buffalo would have played better than New England did in that Super Bowl. I think we would have had a classic Super Bowl if Josh Allen were there.
But uh, yeah, but he can't carry a franchise alone. So a lot of work for the Bills in this off season.
Yeah, it's gonna be fascinating.
And football has a lot of moving parts, and if just you got to make sure everyone is doing their job, and it's for the Ravens, the Bills, all the teams that are struggling. Something's wrong, and it takes a lot to try to figure out what it is.
100%. Now, I do want to get into this next topic because I meant to put this on the last podcast, but I think that this is truly interesting. The NBA right now is kind of in crisis mode because Adam Silver has declared war on tanking. He does not want any more tanking to occur in the NBA because basically he's accusing all these different teams, starting with the Utah Jazz. He's also, I think, trying to accuse the Indiana Pacers, among other teams, of deliberately sitting players who are not injured just for the sole purpose of losing games. And I know, Spencer, if you're still watching, you're gonna um, definitely have a lot of interest in this topic because basically what Adam Silver is proposing is one, first round draft picks can only be protected for top four, top 14 plus selections. Two, lottery odds freeze at the trade deadline or a later date. Three, no longer allowing a team to pick in the top four in consecutive years and or after consecutive bottom three finishes. Teams can't pick up a pick in the top four of the year after making the conference finals. Lottery odds allocated on 2 year records. Lottery extended to include all play-in teams. Flattened odds for all lottery teams, and he's even floated just not doing drafts anymore.
Okay, that's where you lose me. Because like when you come with just weird new rules, um, it's new and uncomfortable. But if you provide tanking is sort of ridiculous. As a struggling Wizards fan, um, I don't think they're tanking. They're just straight up bad. All of Monumental Sports money is going into the Capitals rather than the Wizards, and the Mystics do okay for themselves. But the Wizards, the money isn't going there. They're not getting the good players with the good contracts. I've accepted that. But the idea of just tanking is probably happening, but I don't think it's as prominent as Adam Silver thinks it is. And expressing the idea of just straight removing the draft, that's just dumb.
Well,
I was
Adam
about
Silver has proven time and time again that he's getting to Rob Manfred levels of bad. He might be getting worse than Rob Manfred at this point. Like he might be the most incompetent commissioner because the NBA has lost more popularity.
And he has been pandering for towards the athletes in a level that I think supersedes the level that, for example, the NFL in terms of embracing new rules or I think there will be very good ratings. The teams that do not qualify for the playoffs do like a tournament, and whoever wins the first pick.
Well, to me, I've heard that bring brought up, and I don't think that would ever happen because, for one, if you are the players on that team, why would you play hard just so the team could pick a better replacement for you?
yeah, that makes sense.
Like, they're not going to play hard for that. The biggest issue the NBA has here, the season's too long. Why is the NBA season 82 games? We already know who's going to be in the playoffs. We know that the Thunder are one of the big favorites. The Spurs are going to be one of the big favorites. The Detroit Pistons in the East are one of the big favorites. Why do we have to wait all this time? Basically, there's no reason to watch an NBA game between now and mid-April.
And what's whack is I just looked it up. They start and end around the same time. The NBA and the NHL seasons are the exact same amount of time, and sure they're both
NBA
physically
opening
demanding on different. What's up, Gus?
NBA opening day Christmas. That would be amazing.
Yeah, shorter schedule because sure, hockey is a little more physically demanding because you're slamming into each other going 25 miles an hour. You take a hard enough hit, you're breaking something, you're popping something, whatever. But what a lot of people forget is when you're playing basketball, you're running, your feet are constantly hitting the ground. That's a lot of pressure on your knees, your hips, your spine. When you jump, your whole body's just taking that impact. There's nothing protecting you. So a shorter season would probably benefit the NBA in that way.
Absolutely. Spencer says it's funny that all of a sudden the NBA sends a league doctor out to make sure that the Jazz player they put on IR was actually hurt just so conveniently after a $100,000 fine to a team. They tried to get a player to play hurt. Also, Jason, shout out Jason Warwick in the
There
chat
he
Jason,
there.
is.
Number one pick tournament. Make the prize for winning a number one pick and $1 million bonus for every player. There's your playing card. All right,
There you go.
good.
Put
There's your
some
incentive.
financial incentive in it.
Yeah.
I mean, the NBA should really consider that because they already have the NBA Cup, which is,
That's about as significant as the Four Nations tournament.
yeah.
Oh, but the Four Nations tournament is way bigger than the NBA Cup. I didn't hear a peep from anyone about the NBA Cup.
It's still it's it always, well, I'm gonna bring it back to hockey because you guys know me, but compared to the Olympics and compared to the Stanley Cup, the Four Nations was just a little pissant exhibition.
Right.
It was
Well,
fun, but
but like the Four Nations Cup was a lot bigger than the NBA Cup.
it had
No one
actual meaning.
cares. I don't know who won the NBA Cup this year, guys. I don't know who won it. I Oh, did the Knicks win it? Oh yeah. Okay, so you won the in season tournament, but you still can't win the NBA Finals. But see,
That's cold blooded.
like I
Well,
mean, I can tell you
you
who
know
won
what's
the Four
funny?
Nations.
You know what's funny? The day that the Knicks won the NBA Cup, somebody made a video outside Madison Square Garden and say, fans are crying on the streets about the Knicks winning the NBA Cup. And there's like nobody.
Yeah, well, you know what really should scare the NBA. So I saw highlights from the Thunder Pistons game last night. We're talking about the two teams with the best records in the entire league in Detroit. And keep in mind, it's been forever since Detroit has actually been a legitimate contender, and that arena was half empty. That should be horrifying for the NBA. That your product is so bad that these college basketball arenas are filled up. Those fans are juiced. Um, there's big games every night. Like I was watching Michigan State Purdue earlier. Mackey Arena in West Lafayette was juiced for that match. NBA people don't care, but like it doesn't matter at all. Jason said that Canadians told me this Four Nations tournament was a bigger deal than winning Olympic gold.
I just texted him. I'll say it to you guys. Silver medal opinions don't matter to me.
Yeah. Yeah. The NBA is in a complete crisis. I think they need to severely protract the season. They need to shorten it. They need to make every game matter a lot more. I think they need to reduce the amount of playoff spots too, because right now, 20 of the 30 teams in the league can make at least the play-in tournament. That's way too much for an 82 game season. You have a 66% chance of making the playoffs, but starting the season, and then for the teams that don't make it, yeah, you should tank. I'm not saying every single team at the bottom is tanking, but you should. Like, if you're not going to win the title this year, why go out and win when
I
you
feel,
can go and like make yourself better?
I feel like I might have mentioned this a few months ago. Um, Bill Burr was going off on his podcast about how generally you can probably figure out who's going to be in the NBA championship every year because it's all these teams with a lot of money who can get those big players, and the lesser teams just sort of like help them get into the league. Like, okay, cool. You win, you get the first overall pick, you have him for a few years. He thrives and makes your team look good for a little bit. But then the Lakers offer him a ridiculous amount of money when he becomes a free agent and he goes to the Lakers or the Celtics or Denver. Just all those teams with the money bags while the other teams struggle.
See, and the beautiful thing is like, yeah, like an MLB, right? Like the Dodgers have that, the Yankees have that, but like just because you have the deep money backs doesn't guarantee success. You know, Jason says the NBA is committing suicide by NASCAR. And basically what he means by that is right, NASCAR kind of they went away from what made NASCAR NASCAR and they try to do playoffs and all this stupid crap. And thankfully they are now moving away from playoffs, which I think will make the product much, much better moving forward. Just Spencer, welcome and Jason to the comic section. But the NBA with the NBA Cup and stuff like that, the situation's not good for the NBA. And I think Adam Silver's got to go
You don't
as
see the
commissioner.
NHL doing something like that. You don't see the MLB doing something like that. Um, you don't see the NFL doing something like that. It's I get they're trying to make some sort of special thing to happen in the middle of the season, but that's what the All Star game's for,
Well,
honestly.
and additionally too, the NBA should not be trying to compete head to head with the NFL, and that's what they're trying to do. Nothing, and I repeat, nothing can compete with the NFL.
Even college football acknowledges that a little bit stupidly because they moved away their semifinals from New Year's Eve because of the NFL, which I think is really stupid because nothing. I I repeat, I one of the best moments in sports in this decade was that last field goal attempt by Ohio State against Georgia, and the clock hit midnight. Nothing. I think.
But to be our Thursday night game is on New Year's Eve because we'll have fantasy football implications. So I mean, I get why college football is shying away from it.
If anything, I think college football should partner with the NFL a little more and hold the national championship the same weekend as the Super Bowl, which sure that would mean either starting the college football season later or the NFL season earlier to line that up, but just I don't know, do something cool on Friday, college football national championship Saturday, Super Bowl Sunday. It is
Here's
just
what
a
I would
perfect
do.
week of football.
And, Josh Pate brought this up. I think it's a great point. So basically, what we should do is we need to tell Navy Army, okay, you have a great rivalry, but you can't have your own week anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be the solo game the week after the conference championships. We need to start the playoffs the week after. And then
Yeah,
you need to do the second round of games the week after as well. Do the semifinals the week after that, which should be about the weekend before Christmas, and then do the national title game on New Year's Day. That way, it's a holiday. Most people are going to be off on New Year's Day. Boom. You're going to get maximum viewership for the national title game on New
100%.
Year's Day.
Yeah,
And people are like, "Oh, you're killing like the traditional bowl games on New Year's Day." Well, no, like how many
Bowl
traditional
games
bowl
it,
don't
games?
matter
no,
anymore
no.
because of the
It,
playoffs.
didn't in the past bowl games decide national championships on New Year's Day? Isn't
Yes,
that the original point? We're just coming back to the past.
exactly, exactly. Um, and for the NBA, kind of circling back around to them, you need to remember, right? Like their big thing is going to be the playoffs, and they need to make it shorter. They need to make it quicker to the point because we want to sit there and watch the best teams go at it at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
season. And if your team is bad, then yeah, you should be rooting for them to lose. Like there's been plenty of times in the past 2 years, like I have never like the last two Titan seasons, for example, like late in the season, I'm like, yeah, I want the Titans to lose. Like, I want them to get a higher draft pick because I want them to be able to win in the future. Like sometimes you need to tank. So it just is what it is, and but
Get good at hiding it.
yeah, and the fact they're sending like independent doctors out to like Utah and stuff, like give me a break. Yeah, your
That's
the way
paranoia
your
on a
league is
whole other
set.
level.
I mean, the way your league is set up is broken.
So much.
It is. Now, speaking of NASCAR, I do want to finalize the American talking points. We did have the race in Atlanta this past week, a very entertaining race, chaotic race. Bubba Wallace, I thought was going to win this thing, but he just made a really bad block at the end and kind of gave it to his teammate Tyler Reddick. Michael Jordan's owned a car back-to-back wins to start the season, so great start for Tyler Reddick, already up by 40 points, which obviously points matter again in NASCAR, which is fantastic. They go to the Circuit of the Americas this week, the first road course. I expect guys like Shane Van Gisbergen and Connor Zilic to be the favorites there. But hey, that's all the American stuff. Gus, what's going on down in Brazil? As now you get to just enjoy things as a fan again.
Yeah, and cover as a journalist again, not have to worry and trying to put out fires in Rio Branco. But speak of Rio Branco, big weekend here in the city of Americana. We have the Derby, the 104th Derby between Rio Branco and Union Barbarense. Dylan, I'm going to try to explain to you. Nick already knows that, so this derby is like if, for example, the Nationals and the Orioles play each other,
Oh,
or,
nice.
or Nick knows, it's like the Red Wolves and the Chattanooga FC. It's just like that.
Yeah.
There's hatred towards the fan base. Like I was playing soccer with the Bronco fans. They're just like, finally, we waited for so long. It's our own championship. Like it's a championship within the championship.
Oh,
Like,
it's quick question, but is it like more of just a fun regional rivalry, or is there like actual hate, like
oh,
the Yankees and the Mets, or the
so
Rangers
much
and the
hate,
Islanders and
so
Devils?
so much hate, so much hate.
Okay. That makes
Both
sense.
fan bases hate each other. There were a lot of fights in the past. The police presence gonna be double or even triple what a normal game, is. So it's a whole different ball game. So America, this for those who like soccer in Americana, even the casual ones are gonna be there. It's a completely different, you know, we Americana, people, uh, they tend to not hate, but kind of despise a little, even make joke about Santa Barbara, the West people, and vice versa. And so, especially sports bring that in at the most. So Rio Branco, Union Barbarense, Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Brazil time. I will be actually watching the game on the field because my coverage will be the pre-game and the post-game. I'll be covering the Rio Bronco fans arriving at the stadium and all the interviews with players and coaches after the game. So that will be my mission. But during the game, I'll have the privilege to just watch the game in the field. So that's something I definitely gonna like it. So we'll see about that. So this midweek we had the Brazilian Championship Week 4. Shout out Neymar. Neymar had he scored twice tonight against Vasco. Uh, Definitely, it's kind of exciting to see Neymar playing better because we definitely need him in the World Cup. So great to see him back in good action. In the state championships in Sao Paulo, the one that we cover the most. So Santos is out, the only big team out of the four out. They were eliminated by Novo Horizontino, which is for me the front runner, the best team in the countryside. They play Corinthians at home, and the other semifinal is Palmeiras in São Paulo. So two big semifinal matches in
Man,
this week.
Santos cannot cannot stop embarrassing themselves.
No, that's the general feeling about their fans. I heard a Santos fan say just that Santos, especially since they lost the Libertadores final back in January of 2021, it has been 5 excruciating years of agonizing pain, relegation, and disappointments. That's what Santos, being a Santos fan, is right now. So yeah, so that's it for Brazil. Hopefully, Rio Branco get the win because the last time Rio Branco beat União Barbarense was November 2020. So
Yeah.
it has been long overdue.
And what time is kickoff? And can we watch one the game? And two, can we watch you call it?
No, I'm not calling anymore. I'm not calling anymore. Recently, I've been more like an analyst, but on the radio in the last two games. But since it's a União Barbarense game, they have the União Barbarense crew to do the broadcast. I'm on the Rio Branco game crew. So when is a União Barbarense versus Rio Branco, they have the União Barbarense crew broadcasting. So the Rio Branco crew, they are they're gonna be in other sites. I'll be just watching the game. But you can definitely watch with image, with picture at 1 p.m. Eastern time. I'll send the link. Remind me that. And I'm excited, but definitely it's going to be a very tense game. I think Rio Branco's going to win 1-0. What do you think is going to be the score?
Rio Branco 10, Unibarbarense nil.
Oh, that would be a dream.
WGWTFA.
Oh my god, that would be. I mean, Rio Branco won 6-0 20 years ago, but I mean that would be Rio Branco fans would be all over the moon. How about you, Dylan? What are your score prediction?
And I'll go 1-0 as well, just because I trust your opinion.
1-0. So I take
obviously,
1-0.
obviously, that was not a serious prediction. Uh, so hopefully, something like 2-1.
2-1. I'll take that. Two
Something
one
nice
was
and competitive given the nature of the rivalry.
yeah. The 2-1 was the result of the last derby in 2024. Do you remember there was a brawl in the end?
Yes,
All that,
I remember. I saw the end of it, so I'm glad this one's on a Saturday.
yeah, that one's on a Saturday. I'll send you the link. It's gonna be big game. But that's it for Brazilian s- topics and for this podcast.
Absolutely, guys. It's definitely been a great podcast as we are celebrating our gold medal and all the other crazy sports. I feel like we actually touched on every single sport. I know it's the football off season, but we still talked a lot about that. It goes to show that football is still king, even when it's not in season. But for Nick Hill, for Dylan Becker, and for Gus Tomazelli, thank you so much for watching the only American and Brazilian sports podcast. Two countries, two Americas, all sports. Have an excellent weekend.